So the first thing that I'm going to do to make a scatter graph in Google Docs is to select the two columns of data that I want. I want for this experiment to have distance and time, which are columns B and C. It is important that whatever I want to be my x-axis is the first one that I select. In this case, that is already the way that I want it. The next option is I can either come up here and click on Insert Chart. That's a button up in kind of the top right. Or I can go to the Insert menu and then go to the Chart option. Google will give its best guess on what kind of graph that you want to make. We almost always are going to want to make a scatter graph. So when I go to Chart Types and scroll down, I'm going to always pick this first scatter graph and hit Insert. Now when I first do that, it will try to give it a title up at the top based on the headings of the two sets of data, but it will not label my data. So if I click on this little down arrow here, I always go to Advanced Edit. I'm going to change the title a little bit to be the relationship between distance and time. I can decide whether I want my legend to be over there. Since this, I don't only have one set of data, I don't really need a legend over there right now. Okay, the first red part that I see here is my horizontal or x-axis, which in this case is distance, and then feet. And as soon as I type that in, that will label down there at the bottom. I can decide what I want my minimum and maximum to be. We are always going to want to see the origin of there, so if we couldn't see 0, 0, we could put that in there. Sometimes we might want to zoom out or zoom in on our graph to see it better. We could add some more grid lines here if we wanted to be able to better calculate our slope by hand. However, we are going to tell the computer to calculate our slope, so we don't really need to worry about that. Now, this is the thing I think is most confusing. Now, if I want to label the y-axis, I have to switch it from horizontal to vertical. And then now I can put in time in seconds as that label. Okay, maybe I want to add some more grid lines there as well to be able to see things a little bit easier. As I scroll all the way down, there's all sorts of different options, but we want to add a trend line almost always, and this looks fairly linear to me, even though it is not perfect data. So I'm going to go ahead and tell it to make the linear best fit line. I could say show r squared if I wanted. Right now that's not going to show up because I told it I didn't want a legend. Whoops. Turn that legend back on, please. That r squared again just tells me how good of a job my best fit line is doing of representing the data. This is not the best r squared value. We would want it to be 1. Now I want my label. This is the part that some people are having trouble with. Underneath trend line, I can choose the label, and I want the label to be the equation. So now that I've got my equation of the line, I could make these dots a different color. I could make the dots a different shape if I wanted to, all sorts of things like that. But I can go ahead and hit update, and then I am done.